Hi everybody! Today we will be reading The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, the Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. And every day we're going to have a surprise visitor. And today it is Buttercup. And she will be sitting right here while we read. So let's start on the first chapter. Chapter 1. Lucy looks into a wardrobe. Once there were 4 children, whose names are Peter, Suzanne, Edmund, and Lucy. Their story is about something that happened to them when they were sent away from London during the war because of the air raids. They were sent to the house of an old professor who lived in the heart of the country, 10 miles from the nearest railway station and 2 miles from the nearest post office. He had no wife, and he lived in a very large house, which a housekeeper called McGrady, and 3 servants. Their names were Ivy, Margaret, and Betty, but do not come into the story very much. He himself was a very old man with shaggy white hair, which grew over most of his face as well as on his head, and they liked him almost at once. But on the first evening, when he came out to meet them at the front door, he was so odd-looking that Lucy, who was the youngest, was a little afraid of him, and Edmund, who was the next youngest, wanted to laugh and had to keep on pretending he was blowing his nose to hide it. As soon as they had said good night to a professor and gone upstairs on the first night, the boys came into a girl's room and they all talked it over. "We've fallen on our feet, and no mistake," said Peter. "This is going to be perfectly splendid. This old champ will let us do anything we like." "I think he's an old dear," said Suzanne. "Oh, come off it," said Edmund, who was tired and pretending not to be tired, which always made him bad-tempered. "Don't go on talking like that." "Like what?" said Suzanne. "And all that. It's time you were in bed." "Trying to talk like mother," said Edmund. "And who are you to say when I go to bed? Go to bed yourself." "Hadn't we all better go to bed?" said Lucy. "There's sure to be a row if we're heard talking here." "No, there won't," said Peter. "I'll tell you this. This is the sort of house where no one's going to mind what we do. Anyway, they won't hear us. It's about 10 minutes walk from here down to that dining room, and any amount of stairs and passages in between. Sorry." "What was that noise?" said Lucy suddenly. It was a larger house than she had ever been in before, and though all of those long passages and rows of doors leading into the empty rooms were beginning to make her feel a little creepy. "It's only a bird, silly," said Edmund. "It's an owl," said Peter. This is going to be a wonderful place for birds. I shall go to bed now. I say, let's go and explore tomorrow. You might find anything in a place like this. You see the mountains as we came along? And the woods? There might be eagles. There might be stags. There might be hawks. Badgers," said Lucy. "Foxes," said Edmund. "Rabbits," said Suzanne. Well, when the next morning came, there was a steady rain falling, so thick that when you looked out of the window you could see neither the mountain nor the woods, nor even the stream in the garden. "Of course it would be raining," said Edmund. They had just finished their breakfast with the professor and were upstairs in the room she had set apart for them, a long, low room with 2 windows looking out in one direction and to another. "Do stop grumbling, Ed," said Suzanne. 10 to 1, it'll clear up in an hour or so. In the meantime, we're pretty well off. There's a wireless and lots of books." "Not for me," said Peter. "I'm going to explore the house." Everyone agreed to this, and that was how the adventures began. It was short of the house that you never seemed to have come to the end of, and it was full of unexpected places. The first few doors of the room they tried led to only into spare bedrooms, as everyone had expected that they would. But soon they came to a very long room full of pictures, and where they found a suit of armor, and after that there was a room all hung in green, and a harp in one corner. Then came 3 steps down and 5 steps up, then a little kind of hall upstairs hall and a door that led out to a balcony and a whole series of rooms that led into each other and were lined with books. Most of them were very old books, with some bigger than a Bible in a church. And shortly after that, they looked into a room that was quite empty except for one big wardrobe, the sort that has a looking glass in the door. There was nothing in the room except a dead blue ball on the windowsill. "Nothing there," said Peter, and they all trooped out again, all except Lucy. She stayed behind because she thought it'd be worth while trying the door of the wardrobe, even though she felt almost sure that it would be locked. To her surprise, it opened quite easily, and two mothballs dropped out. Looking up inside, she saw several coats hanging up, mostly long fur coats. There was nothing Lucy liked so much of the smell of and feel of fur. She immediately stepped into the wardrobe and got in among the coats and rubbed her face against him, leaving the door open, of course, because she knew that it is very foolish to shut oneself in any wardrobe. Soon she went further in and found that there was second rows of coats hanging behind the first one. It was almost quite dark in there, and she kept her arms stretched out in front of her so as not to bump her face in the back of the wardrobe. She took a step further, and then two, then three, always expecting to feel woodwork against the tips of her fingers, but she could not feel it. This must be a simply enormous wardrobe, she thought Lucy, still going further in and pushing the soft folds of the coat aside to make room for her. Then she noticed there was something crunching under her feet. "I wonder if that's more mothballs," she thought, stripping down to feel it with her hand. But instead of feeling the hard, smooth wood on the floor of the wardrobe, she felt something soft and powdery and extremely cold. "This is very queer," she said, and went on a step or two further. The next moment, she found that she was rubbing her face and hands were no longer soft fur, but was something hard and rough and even prickly. "Why, it's just like the branches of a tree." "The branches of trees," exclaimed Lucy. Then she saw that there was a light ahead of her, not a few inches away, where the back of the wardrobe ought to have been, but a long way off. Something cold and soft was falling on her. A moment later, she found that she was standing in the middle of wood at night time with snow under her feet and snowflakes falling in through the air. Lucy felt frightened, but she felt very inclusive and excited as well. She looked back over her shoulder, and there, between the dark tree trunks, she could see the open doorway of the wardrobe and even catch a glimpse of the empty room in which she had set off. She had, of course, left the door open, but she knew that it was very silly to shove oneself into a wardrobe. It seemed to still be daylight there. "I can always get back if anything goes wrong," thought Lucy. She began to walk forward, crunch, crunch, over the snow and through the woods towards the other light. And in about 10 minutes, she reached it and found it was a lamppost. As she stood looking at it, wondering why there was a lamppost in the middle of the wood, and wondering what to do next, she heard a pitter-patter of feet coming towards her. Soon after that, a very strange person stepped out from among the trees and into the light of the lamppost. He was only a little taller than Lucy herself, and he carried over his head an umbrella, white with snow. From the waist upwards, he was a man, but his legs were shaped like ghosts. The hair on them were glossy black, and instead of feet, he had goat's hooves. He also had a tail, but Lucy did not notice this at first because it was nearly caught up over the arm that held the umbrella, as if to keep it from trailing in the snow. He had a red wooden muffler around his neck, and his skin was rather reddish too. He had a strange but pleasant little face with a short pointed beard and curly hair. And out of the hair there were 2 horns, one on either side of his forehead. And there's a picture, so if you want to see it, this is it. It's of the lamppost. One of his hands, as I have said, held the umbrella. In the other hand, he carried several brown paper parcels. What with the parcels and snow, it looked like if he had been doing his Christmas shopping. He was a fawn, and he saw Lucy give such a shout of surprise that he dropped all his parcels. "Goodness gracious me!" exclaimed the fawn. So that is 1 chapter, and tomorrow we'll start the next chapter. So see you tomorrow.